Every morning, millions of women follow the same routine: applying perfume, moisturizing their skin, styling their hair, and getting ready for the day. But what if some of these everyday products were contributing to chemical exposures that may influence reproductive health? Scientists have spent more than 2 decades studying a group of chemicals called phthalates. These compounds are found in many common household and personal care products, and growing evidence suggests that some forms of exposure may interfere with the body's normal hormonal balance and reproductive function. In this video, we'll examine what peer-reviewed research actually tells us about phthalates, egg quality, fertility, and pregnancy. More importantly, you'll learn practical, evidence-based strategies that may help reduce unnecessary exposure without creating unnecessary fear. What are phthalates and why do they matter? Phthalates are a family of chemicals primarily used to make certain plastics softer and more flexible. They are also used in some personal care products, fragrances, adhesives, medical devices, and food packaging. Unlike chemicals that remain permanently bound to a material, phthalates can gradually migrate into the surrounding environment, creating opportunities for everyday human exposure. Researchers are particularly interested in phthalates because many are recognized as endocrine disrupting chemicals, rather than acting like traditional poisons. These compounds may interfere with the body's hormonal communication system, influencing processes that regulate ovarian function, follicle development, and reproduction. Because of concerns about children's health, several phthalates have been restricted in toys and childcare products in both Europe and the United States. Yet biomonitoring studies continue to detect phthalate metabolites in the vast majority of people tested, including many pregnant women, showing just how widespread everyday exposure has become. One of the most influential books in fertility health, It Starts with the Egg by Rebecca Fett, brings together findings from numerous peer-reviewed studies on environmental chemicals and reproductive health. Throughout this video, we'll separate well-supported scientific evidence from areas where research is still evolving, helping you understand what is known and what scientists are still investigating. How phthalates may affect egg quality. Every month, a small group of ovarian follicles begins to grow. Usually, only one reaches full maturity and releases an egg capable of fertilization. This highly coordinated process depends on precise hormonal signaling and healthy communication between the egg and the surrounding granulosa cells. Laboratory research has shown that mono-2-ethylhexyl phthalate, one of the primary metabolites of D-2-ethylhexyl phthalate, can reduce estrogen production by granulosa cells in a dose-dependent manner. Since estrogen plays a central role in follicle development, researchers consider this one possible mechanism through which phthalate exposure could influence ovarian function. Additional evidence comes from animal research. A 2019 study found that exposure to dibutyl phthalate disrupted critical stages of meiosis, the specialized cell division that produces mature egg cells in developing mouse oocytes. While animal studies cannot be assumed to predict exactly what happens in humans, they provide important insight into biological mechanisms that deserve further investigation. Researchers have also explored another possible pathway, known as oxidative stress. Several experimental studies suggest that certain phthalates may increase the production of reactive oxygen species while reducing the cell's natural antioxidant defenses. Excessive oxidative stress has long been recognized as one factor that may contribute to reduced egg quality and impaired reproductive function. Taken together, laboratory experiments, animal studies, and human observational research point toward a consistent pattern. Reducing unnecessary exposure to certain phthalates may support reproductive health. However, scientists continue to investigate exactly how these findings translate into fertility outcomes in humans, and no single study can establish cause and effect on its own. The link between phthalates, endometriosis, and pregnancy loss. Beyond egg development, researchers have also investigated whether phthalate exposure may be linked to reproductive disorders such as endometriosis. This chronic inflammatory condition affects millions of women worldwide and is one of the leading causes of infertility and persistent pelvic pain. A large study published in Fertility and Sterility in 2013, known as the Endometriosis study, examined 495 women and measured several phthalate metabolites in urine samples. The researchers reported that several, though not all, phthalate metabolites were associated with higher odds of endometriosis. Because this was an observational study, it identified an association, rather than proving that phthalates directly cause the disease. Researchers have also explored whether phthalate exposure around the time of conception could influence the earliest stages of pregnancy. These first few weeks are especially important because implantation and early embryonic development depend on a carefully regulated hormonal environment. In 2012, researchers at Aarhus University Hospital in Denmark followed couples who were trying to conceive naturally. Women with higher urinary levels of mono 2-ethylhexyl phthalate, a metabolite of D-2-ethylhexyl phthalate, were found to have a higher likelihood of very early pregnancy loss, including pregnancies that ended before they were clinically recognized. As with other observational studies, these findings show an association, not definitive proof that phthalates cause the losses. When viewed together, studies on egg development, hormonal signaling, endometriosis, and early pregnancy suggest that reducing unnecessary phthalate exposure may be a reasonable precaution for individuals planning a pregnancy. At the same time, fertility is influenced by many factors, including age, genetics, medical conditions, and lifestyle, so phthalates represent only one part of a much larger picture. Where are phthalates hiding in your home? For many people, the bathroom is one of the most important places to begin reducing unnecessary phthalate exposure. Personal care products, including some perfumes, nail polishes, hairsprays, and fragrance lotions, have historically been among the most common sources of certain phthalates. One challenge is that fragrance formulas are often protected as proprietary mixtures, making it difficult for consumers to know exactly which ingredients are present. Although many manufacturers have now removed phthalates from their products, some fragrance products may still contain them, unless they are specifically labeled as phthalate-free. Reading labels and choosing transparent brands can help reduce uncertainty. Food can also be an important source of exposure. Certain phthalates may migrate from food processing equipment, packaging materials, and some plastic containers into food, especially fatty foods or when plastics are exposed to heat. While the amount varies widely, minimizing unnecessary plastic contact with food is a practical step supported by many environmental health experts. One frequently cited dietary intervention study followed 5 families who temporarily switched to fresh foods, prepared and stored with minimal plastic contact. Within only a few days, researchers observed substantial reductions in several urinary phthalate metabolites, demonstrating that at least part of everyday exposure can be reduced relatively quickly through practical lifestyle changes. The encouraging news is that reducing phthalate exposure doesn't require a complete lifestyle overhaul. Small, consistent changes can significantly reduce your overall exposure over time. Rebecca Fett recommends starting with products that often contribute the greatest exposure, particularly fragrance personal care products and air fresheners. In the kitchen, consider storing food in glass, whenever practical, and avoid heating food in plastic containers. When shopping for cosmetics or household products, look for brands that clearly disclose their ingredients and specifically identify their products as phthalate-free or fragrance-free, whenever appropriate. It's important to remember that fertility is influenced by many factors, not just environmental chemicals. If you found this video helpful, subscribe for more evidence-based content on fertility, egg quality, pregnancy, and women's health. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.